The Creation Museum, a site dedicated to the creation of the Earth from the point of view of Genesis. And this guy, Ken Ham. I met up with a few friends in my home state of Kentucky and went through this terrible building filled with lies so that you never have to. What was the Creation Museum like inside? Come with me to find out. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying. Here in my new home on the west of the Atlantic, the beautiful state of Kentucky, which may or may not be referred to as the Bible Belt of the USA, we're lucky to have not one, but two buildings dedicated to the retelling of Genesis. No, not the band. The first part of the Old Testament, a book that countless folks in the USA accept as true, even going as far as accepting that dinosaurs and humans live together, which gets confirmed in today's adventure, the Creation Museum, located about an hour from my home. It was about time I took a look. So, before you get to see how terrible the Creation Museum is, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and maybe the algorithm won't be terrible anymore. And a super thanks to a super thanks in a recent video, Porquin. And a big thank you to channel members who get to use Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe and more hen emojis. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you. More hen. Okay, I must add that I thought covert filming was needed, but it turns out they don't care if you film stuff. At least, not yet they don't. But once this video reaches quadrillions, they may change that policy, or add it to the list of policies they have on their website. No bikini tops. Darn it, I'll have to change my wardrobe now. The Creation Museum. We went here on 4th of July weekend in 25, and just so happened to meet this guy, Godless Engineer. You can check out his channel in the description. And also, we met up with this fella, Kelley Laughlin. No channel as yet, but you can see him on most of the ACA shows. And just to complete the roster, Nancy from the Apostate Sisters came along too. See her channel, also in the description. So, after a Zen garden kind of walk to the entrance, of course there was a dinosaur to greet us there, we were slammed in the face by exactly where the confusion between dinosaurs and dragons lies. They are one and the same. Duh, of course. If you're homeschooled, that is exactly what you need to be told. No fact-checking here. Who needs facts when you have creation? Once you get to entrance 3, which is the entrance after the entrance where they try to take your picture, maybe to keep a mugshot of you to be added to the banned list when they find out you're here to laugh and mock everything, which we declined, by the way. And that entrance is after the security entrance, right at the very start. No weapons, please. Maybe creationists get a little gun happy. Well, this is America, after all. You walk under a couple of dinosaurs, and this dude looks like they had an extra bone left over and didn't know what to do with it. Oh, of course. Bone horn. There's plenty of that here, but we'll get to that later. We had barely even started when there were gift shops and stalls instantly. You may know of Noah from that giant ark he built, saving humanity with 8 people and a lot of incest. But did you know, Noah is also famous for coffee and ice cream? Well, what else do you do when you're 900 years old? Once you get past the temptation of genocidal ice cream, you start to see the real museum. And if ever you thought they can't really believe that humans and dinos live together, can they? You get confirmation that they really are that daft, as displayed on this rock with 2 kids playing by the water with what can only be described as gummy baby Rexes being watched over by maybe a Diplodocus, wiggling some plastic leaves between its teeth. Then on to the main event, some casual racism, followed by denial that humans and other great apes are related. If it's on an official board, it must be true, right? The same evidence, but why do evolutionists reach different conclusions? Honestly, you start to get immune to the use of that word the more you pass through. 2 timelines, and it's nice to see the truth next to the lies, but they always put what is demonstrable and sometimes just their interpretation of it on the left, so you start there and then add the creation mumbo-jumbo as the conclusion and what it really is. Not all science is the same. We interpret evidence from the past. The only trouble is, creationists think the Bible is evidence, and that's where all this mess comes from. Where did fossils come from? Oh, easy. Lots of mud when the global flood happened. Never mind that there were also supposed to be dinosaurs on the Ark. Where are their fossils if it took the global flood to do in the rest of them? Silly Benilly. Flood waters game. The creatures were caught in a landslide. There's no escape from reality. A little more walking and seeing people taking genuine photos, but on iPads. Boomers, eh? Am I right? And then, hang on, God made all the animals, but science really cannot be disputed here, so we'll change the wording so that the Bible stays the same and we look a little less silly. Sorry, Ken, that didn't work. You still look as daft as a brush. Oh, yeah, this. The most reliable dating method is by asking someone. So if you want to know, you ask a god, or in creationist instances, read a book you think is from a god. There really is no helping people when they think the Bible is a god speaking to them, and this is only the start of the visit. Here's me helping out Godless Engineer with a Google search, though I didn't search back far enough. But these are recreations of skulls belonging to little apes, and I think this is a creationist interpretation of Lucy, the world-famous Australopithecus. More skulls? Presumed extinct? What the hell? And this middle skull is a chimpanzee infant. At least, that's what you get when you order from Skulls Unlimited for $227. Sheesh. You know what screams biblical to me? An exhibit that looks like it was in stereotypical Egypt. Well, I guess the Egyptians feature quite heavily in the Bible, so actually that does make sense. Maybe the only thing that does on this tour. Here they have a timeline of the age of the Earth, calculated by the ages that folks were born and how long they lived for, and then adding it all together. The Bible is scientifically accurate, huh? I just say you can add numbers together, Kenneth. And it's historically accurate too. I guess just because you say so, it must be. And instead of being convinced by the amazing mathematics, I was more fascinated at the artwork around the battery-powered candles here. Black smoke marks. You really did put plenty of effort into this detail, Ken. If only you could do the same with demonstrating the Bible as being the word of a god. But this may well be my favourite lack of trying the whole day. In the 6,000-year mathematics video, it eventually got to Jesus. And then they put that Jesus was born around 5 BC. I know that BC was introduced later, but they didn't even try to hide the fact that to a layman, Jesus Christ was born 5 years before Christ. Why is Godless Engineer giggling here? Maybe because I just made a joke about Rahab that he may put on a video on his channel. It was gold. Then there was this fine display of a moderately white Jesus, but with a slight Middle Eastern look. And the question, was Jesus borrowed from pagan gods? At this point, I'd become brave and quite clearly was holding my phone to record this almost life-sized screen of some bloke pretending to be Jesus. No one cared, because for all they knew, I was filming the Lord and Saviour, Jeebus Crisp. Little did they know that I later intended to say how silly it all is. Ha ha! Take that, Christians! Before entering the Garden of Eden, the most exciting part of the day, there was this arcade machine with secular humanism versus the story of creation, and how it's a battle that creation will win. Honestly, these flags don't look all that bad. What's your problem, creationists? Into the Garden of Eden, which I was hoping would be much bigger. But then, how much do you really need to see of two people and a bunch of animals? Animals like penguins in the middle of the forest being tended to by Adam, I presume. Chimpanzees, big cats, a couple of kangaroos, which it surprised me that they were there since there's the whole kangaroo argument when it comes to the Ark and how there are no fossils of them outside of Australia, despite them having to travel all that way to be on the Ark. Oh, and it wouldn't be a creationist experience without at least one dinosaur hanging out in Eden with Adam. And why aren't these animals and dinos devouring each other? Oh, of course. All animals were veggie before Adam it up for everyone and everything. And that's why there were those gummy dinosaurs earlier on in the day. And what do you do after a long day of finding enough vegetables to feed every single beast in the Garden of Eden? That's right. You get a bushy hand job from the woman that your rib so very kindly made. A hand job whilst being watched by two very jealous, very vegetarian dinosaurs. And what could be better than a bushy hand job? Perhaps a handjob in a pond whilst being watched by a dragon-looking snake. Better take a picture to remember that forever, Adam. Hold on, are those grapes? Whatever happened to the apple? And which part of the snake are they coming out of? Where did Cain get his wife, since the only two humans were his parents? This board just tries to cover up incest and make it seem normal. You can't sleep with your sister unless you marry her first. I guess that's why creationists look like this. Out of the Garden of Eden and straight into Sin City, where kids get to experience why they're such low-life little assholes in the eyes of a god, and how they're lucky that they also haven't been drowned to death by the being they're supposed to love so very much. All this bad stuff because a god decided it needed to have certain rules and control. This is not how it was meant to be, but you are the one to blame. Not me, the floating wizard, for making it this way. The next bit is gross. Luckily, my 2-year-old was too short to see this, or else it may have been nightmare-inducing. But then, so was the rest of the Creation Museum, I guess. Noah's Ark, the small version that folks must have enjoyed so much they decided to build a full-sized replica some 40 miles away. You walk into a very underwhelming wall of wood and some animatronic people sitting around talking. There's clearly no urgency here. How on earth did they ever get this thing built on time? Oh, that's right, they didn't, because it's all made up. That's when I stumbled upon this sign. Yes, it may well have been talking about the wood of the Ark, but when any self-respecting non-believer in a place like the Creation Museum sees a sign like this, I did what anyone would do. I got down on the floor and planked in front of the planking sign. Then I dusted myself off and got up just in time for security to come into the room. That's the security guy. Yes, he may well have been as old as Noah, but these people were so quick to react, it couldn't have been a coincidence. Fortunately, I went straight back into dad mode and pretended I hadn't seen him. And I wasn't worried, because Pedro Pascal was there to watch over me anyway. After the Ark wall, there was a room that explained how all this worked, with little dioramas. This one had a T-Rex explaining to its children that one of them would have to stay home today. I guess these two long necks decided to just abandon their kids and try again in a few months. That was before the flood, and this was after. Where, to rub the salt into the wound, these folks didn't just have to watch as a giant ship sailed away without them, they had to contend with two angry tigers whilst these two did some push-ups and Pilates. Priorities, people, priorities. Noah takes stock and I guess tries to work out how to deal with mountains and mountains of animal excrement whilst being watched by a crow, which thou shalt not touch, please, just as it would have been on the Ark. I don't know what these two tortoises had done to deserve being shacked up with two big cats, but whatever. Now, I know what you may be thinking at this point. All this shit can't really be in the Creation Museum, can it, Skeptic? Well, no. There's all this shit too. Yeah, you're right, buddy. This is one big load of shit. Which is a great precursor to this. Creationists and evolution. They really do stretch anything to make evolution seem absurd, and it makes more sense that an invisible sky being made all these things. They even use blind cavefish as an example, but they try and make out that it's ridiculous. I wanted to ask the fish for their opinion, but I guess they'd had enough of this BS too. Was this a real fossilised dinosaur? If so, why is its head so squashed? This human-headed bullman Babylonian thing had a massive wang, yet more examples of creationists being obsessed with d***s, or is that being d***? And in this room, I heard a man genuinely trying to explain to his son that Pangea changed because the flood moved the plates around. Really, this level of dumb is inescapable. The biblical flood happened, okay, you guys? It had to happen, and it had to take out everything on Earth because even the animals were being violent everywhere. Oh, how I miss the days of vegetarian tigers. Here's some stuff where Jesus dealt with demons, which had a very disappointing lack of said demons. They put a lot of effort into the other places, so it was a shame that they'd given up at this point. But hey, at least Jesus performed miracles, like any good doctor, magician of his time. You can tell that they didn't have a lot more to say now after the good stuff. Just Bible quotes and the talk of some guy coming back from the dead again, despite him already have come back from the dead or something. Followed by an explanation of Adam being Adam, but also Jesus being Adam, which just seems like even more gymnastics to make all this seem like they have a bloody clue what they're on about. At the end of this part, there was another gift shop, and this one was a little different. Aside from the woman and man candy bars, which we didn't try getting the wrong ones to see what the staff would say, what a missed opportunity, there was this guy, Ken Ham, clearly looking for some self-congratulatory outlet. The creator of this really dumb museum was everywhere in this gift shop, and I couldn't resist getting a photo with him. He's shorter than I thought he'd be, but his face was everywhere. Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So much Ken Ham. And the irony of this book being called The Lie may be lost on some, but not me, Ken. Bravo. More Ken Ham. Ken Ham for kids. Racism and toxic masculinity, the staples of Christian living. Empathy-free living. And a Puritan with the longest neck in the world. Who designed this cover? More racism and anti-woke nonsense. And finally, an interactive part. Something for the kids to do. Oh, well, that was disappointing too. But this guy knows it, and he clearly doesn't care. Oh, right, this is the Creation Museum. We need to remind folks we do believe in dinosaurs, even if they did live with humans. So let's throw together some more dino exhibits with eggs and a T-Rex whose head wasn't squished, another dinosaur and a... Hang on, what's this? Archaeopteryx? Huh. Blah, blah, blah. Evolutionists believe once birds. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't support dinosaurs became birds. Blah, blah, blah. Believed it was a bird. What? So pretty much ending at the same point you started with some gumph in the middle? Sounds very creationist. Good job, Archaeopteryx. And I don't know what you're laughing at. Finally, we went into the Miracle of Life / anti-abortion room with scientific animations which no doubt these people butchered into some kind of proof of a god because they don't understand how sex works, or maybe they haven't had any for a while. Oh, it's a weird place to have a dildo, but whatever. And then ending this section on an abortion survivor story. In that, someone went to have an abortion, but the abortion didn't happen. In much the same way, we're all abortion survivors since we weren't aborted. Bloody silly thing to end on Ken Ham, but at least it's not some supernatural claim about gods and dinosaurs at this point. Oh, I almost forgot. There was another gift shop selling these fine Armour of God outfits for kids, which even fits kids in wheelchairs. Don't worry, little Linda, you may have been cursed to a life like this because of a god, but at least you can fight on its behalf with this fun little armour suit, sword included. Oh, then look. Yet more Ken. And so, that was our time at the Creation Museum. A load of junk that you could just read in the Bible, and a waste of government spending. It was great to hang out with atheist friends, but really, don't waste your money on that pile of garbage. But, if you want to re-watch this video and pretend that you went there, tickets are $50, and I accept super chats. Would you ever go to the Creation Museum, or did I just save you the hassle? Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as 50 dull hairs I won't ever get back. A big thank you to this month's top level ticks on Patreon. Dark Ether Piao, Tamo, the Barely Bearable Atheist, George, Godless Granny, Addy Rockhart, the Enixes, Jakari, Elizabeth, Whiskey Tech Fred, Rick and Stylistic Matthew, as well as all the $3 base ticks and channel members. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/theskeptic. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Or become a member by hitting the join button below this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.